Thank you for coming. Today, my esteemed colleague and I are going to show you what you can accomplish in Sitecore today with machine learning. My name is Mark Stiles. I work at a company called Clear, and I'm a principal web developer. And for the last 2 years, I've been building a toolkit called Sitecore Cognitive Services. And what this is, it takes machine learning APIs from Microsoft and IBM, and on top of that, I'm building features into Sitecore. And later, we're going to show you a demo of some of these features. Now, this is actually an interesting change of pace for me. I'm a developer, a track speaker, and usually I'm in front of the audience of my peers and I'm charging them up, getting them ready for battle. But earlier this year, I was speaking to my colleague Dan, and we were starting to share ideas, and we didn't realize how much what I was doing overlapped with what he was doing. And once I got an idea of what he was doing, I really jumped at the chance to get in front of this audience because I want to show you what it is we have. And I think you'll be very surprised at how much we can do to alleviate your workday. I'm not going to introduce Dan and let him do that himself.
So my name is Dan Murphy. I'm Director of Business Systems Analysis at Clear. I've been spending the past couple of years really focusing on the author experience in Sitecore, ways to make that a lot more frictionless. If you were here last year at Symposium, you might have heard my talk on some tips and tricks for operational efficiency in Sitecore. And at that time, I hadn't really considered how the role that machine learning could play in crafting a great author experience. I had this guy sitting across the room from me, working on that very issue, right? I mean, two great tastes that taste great together, right? We decided to join forces, wear the same coat today, apparently. And hopefully show you a few ways we can move the dial. So first, we'll dive into a few observations that we have about the industry, and follow that up with some specific opportunities for acceleration in the areas of media library management, content tagging, overcoming some complex workflows. But we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to demo it. Right? You don't see a lot of demos in the strategy track, so fingers crossed on that one. And then follow that up with some questions and answers at the end if we have time. So where are we today? These days, we're operating with smaller, nimbler teams. Content authors are no longer simple content producers porting data into fields. They're expected to be digital marketers now, right? With a whole host of new responsibilities. And they don't have as much time to complete the same output. They're managing experiences in a growing number of channels, like mobile and social, and more importantly, there's an ever-growing list of new tools and responsibilities that they're expected to be experts in, like personalization, email marketing, A/B testing, social integration, analytics, and it seems like every year these things just keep stacking up some new thing that we need to be responsible for until we just feel absolutely buried by all of this. Is anybody in this room feeling like that? Right? Everything on this list is something that you need to worry about now, and that's a much more complex world that we're living in today. So what's the cost of all this? Time is being wasted on repetitive tasks like tagging content, like finding, optimizing assets, finding them in the library, and a whole host of things. And as a result, we're ignoring higher value work that we could be doing. We're still struggling to just somehow the CMS part of this. And as a result, people are feeling overwhelmed. Staff is overwhelmed. There's mounting pressure for these folks to stop fumbling with menu options and assigning taxonomies and finding the right creative assets, and more time engaging with their audience. Like identifying segments, setting up goals, personalizing, the kinds of things that we talk about and hear about in this conference all the time. How do we get there? And we get there by squaring away some of these things that have become repetitive. So what can we do about it? Reclaim your day, right? Take this thing back. Optimize the authoring experience in ways large and small. A lot of organizations, they spend the lion's share of their budgets on a CMS. But they don't really spend as much time thinking about the operational efficiency of the processes that enable them, right? And when we're building things, we should be thinking about every data template that we create, every component that we create. We should be thinking about ways to reduce the number of decisions that a content author has to make in the first place. And we can do a lot of that through machine learning. We can automate a lot of repetitive tasks. I've noticed that a lot of organizations that I work with, they build things in very manual ways. And they treat the content author's time like it's expendable. They're smart, they'll figure it out, they'll do it, they can handle that. But it's not expendable, right? All of those micro interactions with the system, they really add up over time, every day, every week, until it's something really significant. So instead of doing all that, we could be owning the experience, right? We could be focusing on efficiency so you can focus on impact.
Thanks, sir. You know what I see a lot of too? Is this. You know what we could be doing instead? Is this. So every time I've been around to build a Sitecore system, I do my best as an engineer to try to make it easy for somebody to get in there and get a lot of work done, instead of going in there and then getting worked. For me, the personal goal, what I want is to make Sitecore an energy efficient marketing system. Now, how do we do that? I would say machine learning is the answer. And I know what you're thinking. Mark, I hear this all the time. It sounds crazy. It sounds like magic, and I get that. But it's not magic. It's science. It's actually math. And it's actually the next great technological innovation. Right up there with the printing press, the assembly line. And it's got slightly more autonomy. I know the next question you're about to ask, which is, Mark, why now? I hear about this all the time. It doesn't come to anything. That's not true. We use it every single day, we just don't know it. So what can we do with it? There's three things that so far we've been able to do, and there's more. But right now, we've taken three things on. And one is the media library. So we can take an image, we can analyze it, and we can detect what's in it. And because we can do that, we can help you find what you're looking for much quicker. Another thing is content tagging. Now, applying a set of taxonomy across a large body of content is actually quite time-consuming, and to do it equally across all the content is quite complicated. But we can help that with some automation. The last thing is with complex workflows. I'm not talking about the workflow. I'm talking about a series of steps that make you feel like you've actually accomplished something. And we can do that by, instead of having you rummage around through the interface, all modals, pop-ups, and links, we can give you one single unified interface that makes it simple, clear, and easy to walk through some process. Now again, this is a different track for me, so I'm used to getting in there and giving a demo, but I didn't think that would be the appropriate thing to do, because I wanted somebody who could speak your language, somebody who understood it from your perspective, and that person is Dan.
Right, so we thought what would be smartest to demo some of these tools from the perspective of the content author, so that's me. So I'm going to show you some of these cool machine learning enabled tools that Mark has built right in the system. So let's pretend that I've been writing some article all day long, and I'm really ready to be done with it. It's taken me all day, and I'm almost done, but then I realize that I have to still add a few assets, like a thumbnail images, to the article that I created. Now, what traditionally happens is you go to the browse experience in Sitecore, it looks something like this. Wait for 20 seconds for that to load sometimes, right? And the first thing you usually have to do is go over here and start drilling through, all these folders to find the assets that you want. If you're anything like our clients, this is not always the most organized place. Even, based on your best effort to try and keep it organized over time, things get put all over the place, and it's really time consuming to try and find those assets. I feel like there's a better way. There's some light filtering capability within this, but it's really just around the dimensions, media type, and when it was uploaded. And we think there is a better way to find that information. So Mark has built this. So this is a browse experience that uses machine learning and analyzes every asset in your media library and assigns all kinds of attributes to it, so you can find things a lot more easily. So if you want to find, just men, you can search for male. You want to find people wearing sunglasses. These images are actually being analyzed. It's not like this is metadata. It's actually looking at the image, understanding the image, and what's in it. Let's say we want a color scheme of blue. There you go. You got the image of me and Mark right here. So let's try another way. So let's say I know that I'm the content author or the author of this article, and I'm trying to find a picture of myself. I can just type in my name and go, and quickly return dozens of images of me. And we have used machine learning to give it a batch of photos learn what my face looks like, and then apply that to every other image in the media library. So if you have a bunch of consultants in your organization, or a bunch of authors with scattered images all over the media library, you'll be able to return that and find that really, really quickly. So let me choose an image that I want to use as a thumbnail in my article. How about this nice one of me and my daughter in Mallorca? All right, so I can set that, save it. You'll notice there's an additional tab here for view analysis, which is worth taking a quick look at. You can see what's actually happening under the hood here. There's a few different tabs, one for visual analysis, emotional analysis, facial, and textual. So if you hover over some of these things, you'll start to see some of the attributes that have been assigned to this image. You know, it can tell that there's a mountain in there, a person, outdoor, a person holding a young girl, which is pretty accurate. You can see some tags here with some confidence level, like it knows for sure there's a mountain, a person, and it's outdoors. It might be beautiful, I certainly think so. If you hover over this, you'll see it thinks I'm 39, thank you, Microsoft. And you know, it tells a lot about me. If I move across, you'll see a lot of other attributes here, outdoor, right? It's actually tagged with my name, because that's it actually identifying it as me, because we taught it what I look like. Great, so let me close that out. So now I want to crop the second image. So I just need a source image, and then I need something that's 1 by 1 for a thumbnail. Pretty common task. So I can just open that thing up in the media library, and I can go here to the cognitive tab, and you can see that there's an option for smart crop. I can give that a click, and just say, you can preserve the aspect ratio, and you can make it what you want. Let's say it's 400 by 400, and crop. And this is reaching out to the API.
It's the Wi-Fi. You didn't see it?
There it is. Okay. Took a little time with our Sitecore Wi-Fi. So you can see it did a pretty good job of cropping that image in a way that I probably would have done myself. You can see that it's obeying a rule of thirds, right? If you're photography folks, it's you can see you can see the mountain in the background. You can see the church here. I thought that did a pretty good job. So we can save that, and it says you successfully saved the crop. If you actually look at that image in the media library here, let's collapse that. You can see that there's now another image down here of 400 by 400. So let's say I want to go add that back to my article. I don't have to remember the path or anything like that. I can simply go back here and browse again. I know that I set it to 1 by 1, so maybe if about 400, so I could just start with width and just narrow that down. See if I can find something that's close to that, and then maybe put in my name, the quickest thing. And then maybe I went too small. I'll just use my name for the sake of argument. Okay. All right, let's just say that's an image. So you can select your image that you found.
Actually, before you go, so the reason you're saying that is you're all like, what is happening? So apparently we didn't expect this. The Wi-Fi is a little slow, but in the time that we're speaking, it's actually taking the image that he just created, it's sending it off to Microsoft, analyzing it, storing that, re-indexing it, and then usually under proper internet connection conditions, we are getting the image immediately back in the search results. So if your company doesn't work at a conference level Wi-Fi, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, so when you crop that image, generally instantly, it's going to be doing everything that it would when you first applied that to the media library. So it's getting all those attributes assigned to it, and when you go to find that image again, it should cover it. But am I done yet? No. I just noticed as I put these images in here that alt text is missing. Also not a problem. I can open that back up. And we have something for that too. So you can see the alt text is missing in this image. If I go to the cognitive tab, I could set that alt text right here instantly. It can, it'll suggest a young girl in front of a mountain, and we're going to continue to work on this so you can edit that in line and then save that. But you could also instantly go to a folder and set that as well. So if you want to set alt text for an entire folder or an entire library, really, you could run this and just get some alt text out there so you don't have that issue anymore. It opens this screen, and you can set a confidence threshold of maybe 80% or more, and then update alt tags, and you can see there were 22 updates out of 29. So some images, it didn't have enough confidence to actually apply the alt text, but for most it did. So if you go here, and you check the alt text, a man standing on a grassy hill. Seems pretty accurate. That's that one. A man standing on a beach, right? So you get the idea. So this is pretty powerful. If you're missing all of these attributes and you want to be, accessibility compliant, you can very quickly run this and save a bunch of time and just avoid doing a really manual, tedious task. Okay. So I think I'm done, and I go, it's a Friday, I'm done with my article, I'm feeling good about myself. It's now like Saturday night, and I'm sitting there at dinner with my wife, and then I realize that this thing needs to go live at midnight on Sunday. I really don't feel like going back to the office to try and do this thing, so I whip out my phone, right? And I use what Mark has built here, which is called Bola. This is a chat bot that he's built into this, and this is accessible from the Launchpad as well. You can open it up full screen. If you've ever tried to use Sitecore on your phone, it's not quite there yet in terms of like touch enabling and all that. But this would work if you open up this chatbot and you say, "Oh man, I need to publish this." It can do a lot of things technically. What can you do? It can kick a user from the system. It can publish content, schedule publish content, upload publish content. It can count your locked items and unlock items. It can do a lot of things. There's really no end to what we could configure this to do. If you could dream up the scenario, we could configure it. But today, I want to publish the article. I want to say, publish this item at 12 a.m. on 10/15, 2018. And it has the context of this item, because this item is actually selected in the tree. If you were doing this just from the Launchpad, like in the scenario where you're using it on mobile, you would have to actually type in the path. But it should be able to recognize that. So when I hit this, it's going to ask me what version. You might have multiple. Let's say 1 for asking. And it's going to ask what database do I want to publish this to. We only have web here, but you might have other publishing topics that you want to push to. And you hit submit. It's going to ask you to confirm. You can change any of the information here if you made a mistake. Let's say we haven't. And it says I've scheduled publish for this item in the web database on the date and time that I set. Okay. Let's check our work here and hope that the Wi-Fi is fast enough to see. Okay, great. It shows you here that 10:15 is set and 12 a.m. Great. From the same chatbot, you can also unpublish that content. You're like, actually, I need that to go. It's going to be sunset a week later or something. I can say unpublish that content on the 25th and go through those same steps. And submit. Yes, that sounds good. And it says it's unpublished that. It will unpublish that content on that date. So if I close this, cross your fingers. Yeah, you can see that there was a publishing from date and a publishing to date. If you've used the change restrictions, it's kind of confusing to a lot of clients that we work with how that actually works. Just to be able to ask the system in natural language how to do something is where we're trying to get to. To be able to just do this and interact with the system in a way that you're not typically used to. That's a little bit more natural for you. Yep. So, Mark just pointed out that there's another task that takes up a lot of time for content authors that we typically find a lot of people spending a lot of time on. They go to their article and they write some long-form content piece, and there's a bunch of locations mentioned in there. There's a bunch of suggested topics in there. There's people's names, and a lot of our clients have a lot of deep business taxonomy. They have topics and locations and people and all kinds of things that you can imagine. And they spend a lot of time doing it. So what we've done is taught the system how to recognize and learn your business taxonomy and be able to apply those tags in a much faster way. So you can see here that there was a human that actually tagged this content. This was real content. We've stripped away any kind of characteristics to identify it, but someone actually applied these tags. So we've taken that content, we go to the cognitive tab, and we go to tag content. You can see that it's grabbed all the text from the article, stripped out any filler words, and it's going to inspect this information to be able to suggest a series of topics. And we have taught it these 3 types of taxonomy. So topics, departments, locations. So let's just say we want to tag it up with topics. You can see that it's suggesting these four: biopharmaceutical, pharmaceuticals, Americas, and it's not as confident in policy, but if we want to add that, we can simply select or deselect. If you compare that to what the human had actually done, you can see that it actually got every single one of these, maybe in a slightly different order. So let's try that again with a different piece of content. So you can see here there are four. I'm going to tag content again. And you'll see it actually got all four of the ones that the human found, but it actually suggests a few others that might be relevant. Right? In some ways, this might be catching things that a human wouldn't find. So not only is it quicker to actually have the machine suggest to you what the tag might be, it actually may find things that you would ordinarily miss. So we save that, and you can see I successfully tagged the content. If I refresh that, you can see it's dropped those tags right in without me having to just troll through all of these things to find the right ones and move them over. So Mark will take back over here and talk and just give you a little more information about all the technology that underpins what you just saw.
How you doing? So what do we think?
Very cool.
You should be happy because this is going to save you a lifetime of work. Now, I want to step back and show you from a bigger picture perspective what it was we did, because it's important that you have confidence that this is an actual, viable, scalable, working tool. So what we're doing is we're taking your media library and we're uploading it to Microsoft. They don't keep a copy, but they analyze it. And we're using two different APIs. One will detect objects and text. The other will detect and learn faces. We take that information and we store it in the system, and then we index it. And that way you can search on it. Search and pass it. Now it's a lot more complicated than that. I'm not going to go into all of that, but understanding from a high level is really important. And the most important thing you should really take away from this is that in the 2 years that I've been building this, and this is my aha moment, I haven't actually paid to analyze an image. Now, I'm not saying none of you will. Right? There's a level of production that you'll need to actually pay for and get use on, but for me as a developer, I was able to build an entire tool without. It's a really smart business decision for many of these companies that are doing this. And I probably analyzed 6,000 images or so. And it's, even if you are going to analyze 100,000 images or whatever it is, it's probably about $1 an image, $1 a 1,000 images. So it actually scales pretty well. And the nice thing is that you don't have to analyze it twice. Once you've analyzed it, it's stored and you're good. Now, content tagging is a little bit more complicated, so we don't necessarily know where your content is. It could be in a field or several fields. It could be in a data source. So the first thing we're doing when we're trying to tag the content is we're mapping the types. So for any given page, we have to know where it is, store that. Then we do a search, and we say, okay, get this page type. We'll take these fields, we'll pull the content, pull the tags. In this case, we got 15,000 rows, and we send it off to Watson. Now Watson chews on it, and then when it's done, you can then tag new content. Now what's interesting about this is that in doing this, I took the 15,000 items, and afterwards I took another 2,000 and I tested it. And for this one, I was able to get 93% accuracy. And what that means is that every article that had tags on it, I said, did the suggested tags also have it on? I was able to get it within 93%. And that's just a start. Now there's a lot of things I can do to improve on that, and I know that I can actually get it more accurate with less content. And that's all well and good. A lot of our clients, we actually have a lot of content. So for them, this is a lifesaver, but for a lot of people, they don't necessarily have 15,000 or 7,000 pieces of content tagged. So if you don't, we're working on a solution for that too. And this isn't a solution that I've come up with. This is actually somebody else's that I borrowed, but what it is if you have a list of tags, what we can do is apply a rules field to each tag and allow you to define what should be related to this tag. So you would say in the rules field, if this content contains this word or that word, maybe it's a parent or a descendant of this, then you can tag it with this item. And that will allow you at a smaller scale, maybe 100 tags or less, to be able to tag content without having anything pre-tagged. And it gives you really good control of what it is that should be tagged. Now the complex workflows, when we were building Ola, what we had to do first is try to figure out what we wanted it to do. So there, for me, I'm a developer, kicking users, publishing content, unlocking items, it's something we do all the time. So that was easy to figure out what we wanted. And once we did, then we have to start defining how people are going to ask to do that. And all of this is managed. Microsoft has a Lewis application where you go in and you say, I'm going to set up an action, and now I'm going to start to describe how people are going to ask for it. The interesting thing is that after you have a series of phrases that you've added, you can say, look, people are trying to publish to the web database. Well, web is actually a variable. It could be master, it could be core. Pull that out, give that to me when somebody asks for this action. And once you have that, and you can train on it, it's actually pretty quick for this particular, for Ola. It takes, I don't know, a minute, something like that. After that, what you need to do, since you know what action somebody's going to take and you know the information that they provided to you, is just build the code. And you can do this anywhere, but this is a Sitecore application, so we're doing it there. Once you have the code, it's all about just wiring it up to the UI. And for me, it's just it's a simple form, looks like a text message window. And it's actually not as much effort as you think to get some value out of it. Now the interesting thing about this is that recently we had a client who asked us to walk through an exercise and try to see what we could do with machine learning for their website. We had a lot of ideas, but the one we came to was to take this, and when I say this, I don't mean Ola, I don't mean a chatbot. The thing is that people have ideas of what chatbots are, and they're either really good or really bad. And we don't want you to think of it as a chatbot. It's really underlying is a language engine. And what we did for this solution was we said, we can take a language engine and we can apply it to a search field. We can probably get people to where they want faster. Now, so what we did was we figured out 3 things that we thought mattered to them most: purchasing something, setting up events, and then information about their offices. And what we did is we showed them side by side. You go to your website right now and you type in this is what you get. Completely unrelated information in your search results. But if at the same time you use Lewis, you can place your search results, but you make a request to Lewis and you say, does this make sense to you? Is this something they're asking for? It comes back and says yes. For the search results, we say, hey, they were trying to buy something. Maybe you should give them a button, add it to cart. Needless to say, that went over quite well, and we're still in talks with that. So, the next thing, and this is the part I think that I enjoy the most, which is the vision board. Now, I love being all up in my head and thinking about crazy ideas, but what I want to do is be able to show you what we can do in the future. Because right now we've done phase 1. Phase 1 was really just to prove to people that machine learning is here and it's useful. And I think we've accomplished that. The next step is to really innovate on something that's challenging. And the first thing that I want to be able to tackle is analytics. Now, I'm not going to rebuild an analytics engine. I'm sure everybody already has one. What I want to do is feed better data into it. When you pull that data back out, be able to process it through some machine learning algorithms and give you better choices. And that key word is choice. Because when you have all this information, it's not enough to show you a chart. To me, personally, I think that's just not very helpful. And you need charts so you're blue in the face, but if you don't know how to interpret that data, then it's not helped you. Now, the thing is that there's a certain number of choices that are really helpful to you with Sitecore System. And the person that should know that is the system itself. So the system could tell you what it needs from you. It could help you optimize it. And the next phase is to try to have an assisted system that reaches out to you through Ola and tries to help you optimize it. So if you imagine being into the system, logging in, you open Ola, and Ola says, good morning. Hey user, did you know you've never created a goal? You really should, because if you do, I know how to optimize your content better for you. Hey user, did you know that there was an error last night? Would you like to see a copy of the logs? Hey user, sorry. Hey user, did you know that 80% of your content is only focused for 20% of your users. If you focus on this topics, maybe write some more articles, maybe set some goals, you can grow this majority of your audience to a much bigger, more successful system. Now this is the future of Sitecore. Hopefully not in the back judging me right now, but being a little bold, but I think that the way that you're going to interact with your CMS is actually going to be more of a two-way relationship. And this is what you should expect, because what I don't want is to go in and spend an entire day working in a system and then question whether you even accomplished anything that day. What would be better is if you went in and the system worked with you and helped give you feedback. Hey, that article you posted yesterday really got a lot of conversions off of that. Good job, keep it up. Hey, did you know that these 10 pages nobody ever visits? If you got rid of them, it wouldn't even matter. Stop editing them. This is the difference. This is where you get your day and you're more effective with your system. So that's all I have for you today. But I'm going to leave you with this, which is the robot invasion is actually here. The good news is that they're here to free you up so that you can spend your time doing something better, like nurturing your audience. So, shrink your workload, grow your audience, and be more human. Thank you. And now we're going to get back to what we usually do.
We were going to get the helmets and everything,
Yeah.
but they were too expensive. I'll open up for any questions that you might have.
All right, thanks.
How long does it take the system to index and start
For the image analysis?
Good question.
So the taxonomy, so
Can you?
my name is Chip. I work for Stiles University. We have a project with you right now, and we're getting ready to turn these back-end tools on. And this looks really exciting. I was just wondering, like, how long does it take for all the assets and the taxonomy to start like indexing the text, to make suggestions?
So I took, actually figuring out how to map the content. I built a little user interface to modal, and if you're on the item, you just pick the fields. If you want to do data sources, I have to add a little bit more to that. But essentially, setting it up is not that long. And once you do that, you click a button, it does a search, pulls all the data back, sends it to Watson. This process is probably only a couple of minutes in the end. The training, again, because I'm on a free tool, I'm using the developer thing, trying to see how much mileage I can get out of the free tools. The training took about 32 hours. If I were to beef that up, I'm sure it would come down considerably. But again, this is not something you do very often. You learn your content, and then you just tag away. If it is something you want to change, you would probably set them all up during development, and then they'd be ready for you. And if you do want to change it at some point, you just create a new one, and when it's ready, you just point to it. So
What was the size of that example, like the size of the site page count?
yeah, so it was about 30,000 articles. It took about 15,000 to train it, 2,000 to test it. Like I said, I can probably get that down with a couple of changes to what I was doing. Now that I've seen the results, and I can get through it. But it's not like it's even if that's too much for you, we have a different idea that we can solve that problem with. And yeah, I mean we can talk. Let's talk. Anyone else?
Hi, Mark. Max Boyert. You mentioned event attribution. Did you use any weighted index or anything like that already? Or looking at the engagement value scale, for instance, is that your next challenge, or did you already apply that?
So I haven't built anything with it yet. So that stuff this is my.
Yeah, I saw it in the slide. That's why. Yeah.
So the cool thing is that I have this API that I'm looking at now with a company called Exosis, and they have algorithms that do this. So what I would be doing is taking your content data or your traffic analytic data and sending it over, giving you the ability to plug in events. So the interesting thing would be if somebody mentioned you on television. Maybe somebody wrote something about you, a blog post, New York Times or something, or maybe somebody's on Twitter, who knows. Any of these things you start to plug in, and what I'm hoping to be able to do is over time, you would learn that and say, these things didn't matter, but these did. Maybe these events, you know something about. Maybe there's a specific audience, maybe it was during a specific time of year, and you will be able to then take a cursory action and say, maybe that's an audience we should take a look at, we didn't know about. There's something there, they're engaged in what we're talking about, and start to work on that.
Okay, and is that with Sitecore Analytics then as a default, or broader?
So, yeah, I'm not interested in where you keep your analytics.
Okay.
Eventually, I'm hoping to get it from a number of sources. It's just a matter of, I know everybody has their own, there's a bunch of them, so I'm going to assume that I'm going to have to plug and play there a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Thanks. Hi. This is great stuff, thank you. Wondering in terms of the tagging suggestions, is it only going to be tags that you already have in the system, or will it also suggest additional tags that you might need to add?
I wouldn't suggest additional tags. The problem that we were solving for was that we needed to be able to learn the taxonomy that existed. I mean, you could, obviously add your own, you could retrain it, but it's not going to take anything additional. You could do something like that. It's not outside the realm, where it would read the context and try to apply either like an international taxonomy or just pull topics straight out of the content. You could do something like that. I'm open to ideas.
That's what was different about this, right? It's like there's a lot of programs out there that can just enrich your content with some kind of accepted global taxonomy, but the ability to take your specific language, the way that you think about and categorize content, and teach them about that and apply that to your content. I think that's where it's not sexy stuff, right, that we're automating here, but it's just these irritating things that you do. You don't even realize you're doing it, and you're spending so much time doing it, right? Like I was doing a demo and voicing over the thing, and it took many minutes, but if I was just trying to do those same tasks, it probably would have taken, a minute, 2 minutes, instead of a half an hour, right? It's like, what would you rather be doing with that hour, right? So we're just trying to find the things that you're doing already, not necessarily finding value add things, just all the stuff that we're doing now that we can square out of the way so we can focus on other things.
And another question was, you mentioned only analyzing them once, but if you add things to your taxonomy, then would you be able to rerun it?
Yes. The idea is to make it easy. So there's buttons in the nav, and there's a system section where you create a second one. So the idea would be, maybe after you've created some, you tag something with it, you go down, create a new one, and then just use that one out.
You mentioned before use 15,000 assets and then 2,000 to train. Is there some minimum number of assets you would need to effectively train?
It really comes down to the accuracy, right? If I'm able to get a high level of accuracy with a low level of content, whatever that minimum is. So in this case, I had no idea what I was going to get until I did it. So I trained it, and then I tested it, and I was like, this is good for a demo, don't touch it. But I could, I could go back in. There's a couple of things that I noticed that I could do to improve it. So there was weighting. I heavily weighted towards a handful of tags. Many tags weren't used very much. So even with that level of accuracy, what I could do instead of just doing a very broad search, taking a lot of content, I could say for each tag, find me 20, 50 items, and just send those. That will drop the amount significantly of how much data you need, and potentially improve the accuracy because you have more examples of each. So it's still, I'm still trying to figure out where it is. It depends on how much taxonomy you have and how much use it. Anybody like the music?
Where can you get it?
From Fleer? You can sit in the back and get my card later, and we can talk all you like.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions, you know where to find us.
Yeah, if you're interested and you want to know that like some of this stuff is pretty well cooked, like the image search. We've been working with this for a while. Some of the other stuff is still ongoing, but we can always build it to the things you need. If you have any interest, feel free to sit back and talk to us after.